NTI PodTalk. This is the platform where we talk to students, instructors, graduates, we don't talk to prospective students, but instructors, really anyone who has any connection to NTI or people who are in the field of food and nutrition. And so really anything having to do with food, nutrition, or NTI, that's what we talk about here. Today I am pleased to welcome Dr. Meg. Dr. Meg has been an instructor here for a little over 2 years, I think it's been. Time goes by so slowly in some situations and so quickly in others. So a little over 2 years. And we're thrilled to have her. So welcome, Dr. Meg. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So I have a couple of introductory questions to ask you. The first one is, what's your educational background? What do you do for a living? Because that is relevant to why you are an instructor here. So can you talk about that?
Wonderful. Yeah. So I am a naturopathic doctor that practices in Denver, Colorado. I have a private practice that's called Children's Naturopathic Center of Colorado. And in my 5 to 10 year dream, that is going to be a very giant center. But right now, I am the physician that runs that. And I see patients here in Denver. So naturopathic medicine, my distinction is ND rather than MD or DO. So it is a naturopathic doctor degree. And I received that degree after 4 years of medical school in Portland, Oregon at the National University of Natural Medicine. When I started there, it was still a college, but they became a university as of the last few years. And it's one of the oldest naturopathic colleges in the United States and Canada as well. And so through that education, we do 4 years of medical training. So we do everything from anatomy, physiology, cadaver labs, pathophysiology, endocrinology, all of the ologies, and then also learn, in addition to the conventional ways that we treat things, how to treat things through nutrition and botanical medicine and lifestyle medicine. And so just that more natural, holistic approach. Prior to that, I am a CU grad. I went to school at CU Boulder and I got a business degree there, actually. I held on to that while I did my pre-med, thinking that was probably prudent considering my life's path. And it did turn out to be so, because I now run my practice that way. But yeah, I've been in healthcare for like close to 15 years. I've been in healthcare for a long time because I knew it was where I wanted to be, in various like hospitals and practices, both abroad and in the United States. And so I have kind of a very varied, informed background, but I've always been focused in pediatrics and family care. And so that's where my practice, focuses now. And that's kind of my background in education.
So I am always interested in hearing people's stories about what is it about the natural medicine trajectory was of interest to you, because you say you've always had an interest in healthcare and medicine. What caused you to go to naturopathic medical school rather than traditional medical school? Because there is a difference, and it's a conscious choice, right?
Yeah, this is kind of a fun story I like sharing. So I was on the path to go down that conventional route. I was in the first round of interviews for CU's med school, actually, and interviewed and did very well there. And found that through that process, it really didn't feel like a good fit. I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb in a lot of ways through that interview process, in that I felt like I was entering that world and that sphere to kind of, I don't want to say break the mold, but I knew I wanted to do more holistic things. And I felt like that was just such a powerful aspect of healing and healthcare, was kind of embracing that natural healing ability of the body. And it just didn't feel like that necessarily was the paradigm that conventional medicine really operates in. Granted, when you have a broken arm or a heart defect or something like that, you don't really, the body is not capable in that moment of like changing that. And so that's where conventional healthcare really like shines and does such amazing work. And I think, I really admire and work closely with a lot of people in that field. But for me, I think my longing and desire was just that gentle, like, how do we keep people optimized and at their healthiest, and that there's a natural wisdom to the body in doing that. And so the key principles of naturopathic medicine really focus in on that. And so it was kind of through Google searching that I was like, what other careers are there out there that kind of align with this? And when I read those principles, which are available on the, our academy's website, of, nature, everything comes through nature. So nature's ability is to naturally heal itself. So it's vis medicatrix naturae is our, like, one of our key principles, in addition to like first do no harm and these sort of things, doctor is teacher. These key principles really aligned with my personal beliefs. And I think that really kind of led me down the path of wanting to pursue naturopathic medicine. Once I found it, it was really like, there's not really anything else I can do. So it was kind of a given that way.
Yeah. I love that story, because I think so many people don't realize that there is a different path, and there is a path that does focus on natural and holistic health within the sphere of a medical degree, a medical paradigm. And so I appreciate that there are naturopathic doctors out there. I appreciate that there is technical medical training with that foundation, that holistic foundation. I'm so I just love it. I think it's great. I wish that more people in the conventional medical system would recognize the validity and the great effects that you can get by focusing on holistic health and natural medicine. But anyways, as we say, you can't break the mold and change the paradigm, but I think they're coming more around to it, certainly.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I think even on an individual basis, so I work like fairly closely with a lot of my patients' other providers, whether that's a gastroenterologist, endocrinologist, neurologist. And I find they actually have been very respectful and appreciative of the things that I have to offer. In addition to, when you were speaking about, this kind of marriage of, we use scientific and evidence-based things even in holistic practice, because there's data there and biology there that we can understand and encapsulate to justify why we do and recommend things. We're not just kind of pulling things out of our hat. And so I think that really has an impact when we present ourselves to other providers in the healthcare field, that we are presenting ourselves with evidence, and we're presenting ourselves as educated individuals, rather than getting too wrapped up in our belief system, even though that's a really important aspect. I think it really kind of builds a lot of bridges. And then I do see providers who are really blown away, and I have providers that refer to me all the time from the conventional realm, because they're like, I don't have any more tools for this, and I know you do. Particularly things with like neurodevelopmental disorders like autism, even things like seizures. And I treat a lot of gastrointestinal disorders that I have a lot of patients who have done everything medically, and then they come to me, and then the doctor's like, wow, they got better. So it's coming. They're learning, everybody's learning and trying to figure this out. And I think all we can do right now, and just in general, is build bridges in our community. I think as a world, we need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Pardon me, my voice is strained. So I'm, that's great. That's great to hear that you've developed those relationships. And one thing I always talk about is, I don't know about the entire field of conventional medicine, but I do know anecdotally, and I may be stereotyping, but I think for a long time, people in conventional medicine didn't even think that what you eat matters. There was kind of this very large disconnect that, well, food doesn't matter, like it doesn't, like, it has no impact on your health. And now in conventional medicine, it is very well understood the impact that food has, and, you know, the recognition that food matters. And I still think in conventional medicine training, they're lacking in nutrition training. You know, you hear stories of medical doctors getting, you know, at most a day or two, and in some cases, you know, 3 or 4 hours of nutrition training. So I think they're still lacking in the training, but they certainly do recognize that food matters, nutrition matters, it has an impact. And that's what we're so great about here at nutrition, you know, at Nutrition Therapy Institute, is training the holistic nutritionists that can work alongside with naturopathic doctors as well as medical doctors to give that focused support for nutrition when the physician says this person needs a nutrition paradigm to help support whatever they're doing medically.
Exactly.
You know, that's what our graduates are so well trained to do. So
Absolutely. I think that's such an important role for us to fill. And it's just kind of like, it's interesting to understand, like, doctors are kind of, I don't know if they're happy that they don't have the time to
yeah,
sit with someone and really work through that because of the way that the system is built.
that's right.
They're really not allowed for that, even if they think it might be important. And so that's why, like, instead of, you know, shunning that system too much, it's building that connection so that
Absolutely.
they know that there are resources available to their patients, to support that. So
Yeah,
absolutely, and NTI graduates are a definite candidate for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. You know, I'm not, I don't think we get anything out of kind of creating a them and us, or a, you know, whatever.
Totally. Yeah.
Creating borders. It's all about connection, as you say. So, all right. Well, thank you for that sort of background about yourself. And that is why you know, that's why we have you here. I'm so pleased that you are an instructor here and continue to be an instructor here. I think that your knowledge, your experience, your training, you bring so much to our students, and I really appreciate that. So
Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
yeah. So speaking of that, can you talk about the courses that you teach here? What courses do you teach?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I've had a smattering. I've gotten to teach a lot of things. I was
Yeah,
actually going through. So right now, I'm only currently teaching the independent study forms of research and communications, and then the final independent study project. So I'm teaching those both. So I host a webinar monthly, and then I'm doing sort of the grading and communication behind the scenes on those courses, which I've really been enjoying. And speaking of like learning to communicate on an academic level, I think those courses are sort of all about that. So
yeah,
I have a particular passion and excitement about getting students in a place where they feel confident communicating through scientific literature, with providers and obviously their audience and patients as well. So that's kind of the key aspect of those two courses, is learning how to do that appropriately, and then also just starting to build their brand and build how they want to express themselves to the outside world, which I think is a great benefit coming out of school, to have that started for them. So I'm teaching those right now, but I have also in the classroom taught the nutritional endocrinology and reproductive health for a term or two, digestion and detoxification, life cycles and healthy aging, and the anatomy and physiology. So I've kind of been through, hopped around, doing all of those different ones in the classroom, and gotten a really good breadth of what the education looks like for you guys.
Yeah. Well, so can you talk about, like, you know, you obviously continue to be an instructor here, so I hope that means that you enjoy it. Can you talk about what is it about the school or the students that keeps you coming back, and that you enjoy, why you enjoy teaching here?
Oh man, so I did not know I was going to enjoy teaching as much as I actually do. So it has kind of kept me hooked, of like, I get really excited about the excitement of the students of like getting to foster and encourage just that enthusiasm you have when you are discovering something new and you're excited about learning about it, you're excited about talking about it, and obviously disseminating it, becoming the practitioner of teaching people about it yourself. And so I think that process of getting to hear, what people's interests are in and trying to really stoke that has been just a really big joy for me, because I had that, with particular pediatric natural health. And so it's just been my pleasure to kind of participate in that and engage students in a way that hopefully continues that passion and that excitement, and finding ways for them to maintain that throughout their career, and just especially right here at the beginning. And then the other part is, like, I get to learn so much too, reading these papers and getting to see what students are kind of coming up with. That's really exciting for me too. It almost feels like, I've always known this about teachers and I've always respected about teachers, but never really thought of myself in that role. But you really are having a greater effect, because outside of just my patients that I treat, when I'm helping another practitioner, that practitioner is helping more patients, and it feels very impactful to kind of be in that aspect as well. I like teaching online because of the flexibility, and I get to be with my daughter. I do miss teaching in the classroom because I really enjoy being with students and getting to engage and ask questions and just have fun that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe someday we'll get you back in the classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is in line with what I hear a lot of instructors saying. Our students have passion. They are intellectually curious. They are they're smart. They want to learn. They have a drive to want to learn more, um, and so I think that's what keeps it fresh. It's what keeps it fresh for me as an instructor and as the director of school. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's nice when people get to the point in their lives where it's also like you're not forced to be in school anymore. Like,
that's
people are
right.
here because they want to be here and because this is like a career for them. And
Yeah.
so you can definitely feel that in the culture of NTI, that like people are there to really like do something big in their
Mhm.
community and in their, sphere. And so I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like to see how students blossom as they progress through the courses, to start to understand and have recognition about how they can start impacting others' lives.
Yes.
I really like that, because they're like, oh wow, like they start making all these connections with how they can have an impact on others, and I think that's amazing. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. All right, well, so let's shift a little bit and talk about you personally. So one thing I always like to ask, like, you know, we are a nutrition school. We talk about food a lot. Do you have particular ways of eating, particular things that you incorporate regularly, that you never you make it a habit you would not skip?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many directions I could go with this. So lots of things. I'm a big, like, variety is the spice of life. And so I'm big about having different and new things all the time, trying different, ways of cooking things, different cuisines. Just that variety, I think, is really key. When we think about like food allergies and food sensitivities and things like that, getting too much of one thing can be problematic. And so I'm big on variety. And one of those areas that I do a lot of variety is like nuts and seeds. So there's like 2 shelves in my refrigerator right now that are just like bags of different nuts and seeds, and it's something that I munch on frequently. Just like if I'm hungry, I'll go grab like hazelnuts or pumpkin seeds or walnuts or Brazil nuts. Like, there literally is every type of nut in my fridge right now and seed. So that's kind of a big one for me, incorporating into my cooking if you were to ask about a particular food. The other one that I like to talk about a lot is like herbs and cooking. So not just taking herbs as a supplement, but actually incorporating them into your food. And I traveled in India, and that was a really big educational experience for me in terms of, where I went with my career. but it's fascinating to me the amount of herb they use in their food, or the amount of spice, and sort of that medicinal level of dosing with turmeric or cumin or ashwagandha, and actually being able to incorporate that into your food. And so that's something I really, really love doing, is incorporating herbs and things into my food in a medicinal way. So even using things like nettle, which is a very botanical plant, and making like pestos out of nettle.
Mm.
So you can kind of get creative with the way you incorporate that and make sure you're getting enough of it that it's actually like dosing. So a sprinkling of turmeric isn't necessarily going to have the medicinal dosage, but in India they sell spices in like pounds. Like you buy pounds, even if you go to a Indian or an ethnic grocer here in Denver, you'll get spices that are in like big bags, because
Yeah,
that's how much they use for their cooking. And so it's just very, you've learned a lot about that. It's just very
yeah,
interesting. So those are two things that I do a lot of. I do a lot of herbs, and I do a lot of nuts and seeds.
yeah, yeah. I have been delving a little bit more into Indian, I guess, Indian cooking, not specific recipes, but using the spices. And so, I bought a bunch of what someone would classify as Indian spices, and I've been experimenting with using them, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah, it's fun to look at other cuisines, and I like how you acknowledge that in Indian cooking they use herbs not just for flavoring agents, but for medicinal purposes. They're true. They truly do use food as medicine, right?
Yes, yes. Chinese culture as well, like things like
Yes,
dong quai is a really big one that they put in their soups and their stews. And their women don't have menopause.
that's right.
Like,
That's right.
I mean, they have menopause, but they don't have all of like the symptoms around menopause. And it's
Right.
like they eat this their whole life.
Right.
So yeah, I think we have so much to learn from those other cultures about the way that they use food as medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so one other question that I want to ask you is, what kind of resources do you regularly follow, like um, websites or different people who do podcasts, or are you more of a person who has particular medical journals that you read regularly and sort of devour and cover to cover? So can you give us some ideas of what kind of resources you follow on a regular basis?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I'm not super consistent with any one particular resource. I'm always jumping around, and usually it's based a lot on the patients I'm seeing. And so based on what condition I'm kind of seeing a lot of at a certain time, or something I see, then I'll do a lot of reading up on that. I use Up to Date a lot, so that's kind of that's a more conventional realm, but it's a very like good resource for the most up to date information, pun intended, that medical providers are reading. So that's something I usually read quite a bit of on whatever conditions that I'm looking at for the time being. More on the integrative side, the NDNR is a naturopathic doctor website and journal, and they have some really great posts about cases. They'll post cases. They'll post like pieces about our philosophy and beliefs, and how we're integrating and things like that. So I do read up on that quite a bit. And then I follow a lot of different people like on Instagram and that sort of thing. A lot of it ends up being like resources for my patients. And so I think you kind of find that as well. So things like Solid Starts is a really big one, because I work with a lot of like babies who are transitioning to food. So learning how to do that in a really like healthful way, and knowing how to educate parents on how to cut things, and giving them the power and resources. Again, my job is to educate. And so I'm just trying to find ways of educating those patients so that they feel empowered to do those things. Um, one of my mentors and colleagues is Dr. Erica Pearson, and she does a lot of really great posts. She specializes in a little bit of Down syndrome patients, which is a big population, and a population that can use a lot of support. And she's so evidence based and has such good resources on nutrient levels and treating those kids um, as special as they are.
Mhm.
So that's one I definitely follow. But yeah, there's several that I kind of jump around on and get different information from.
Yeah, nice. Good. Well, those are great resources. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what kind of hobbies do you have? What do you like to do in your spare time, which I don't know if you have any spare time, but
Yeah, so I'm a new mama, as some people know, because I've kind of jumped off some of the teaching classes. But so that's kind of been my main life, is just hanging out with my kiddo and watching her, become whatever she's going to become.
Mhm.
But I do have a pretty avid garden in my yard here in Denver. I do a lot of hiking with my dog. And I am 100% a maker. So I love to like craft, quilt, sew, like whatever I can just create something out of, I really enjoy doing.
Yeah,
So those are kind of cooking included. Cooking
yeah,
is considered making for me. So I do a
sure,
lot of cooking.
absolutely. Yeah, cooking is very creative. Um, all right, well, fabulous. So this has been a really fun conversation. I always like to get to know people more than what I thought I did, and we don't get to talk every day, so it was really good to catch up with you.
Likewise.
Um, where can people find out more about you? I know you mentioned your practice, but if you could mention that again and just tell us where people can find out more about you.
Totally. So my practice is Children's Naturopathic Center of Colorado, and the website is ND, like Naturopathic Doctor, the number 4, coloradokids.com. I also have an Instagram and Facebook page that you can link through that. I think it's ND for Colorado Kids is the Instagram page, and then there's a Facebook as well. Finding out about naturopathic medicine is also really great. There's actually a Pediatric Association of Naturopathic Physicians, for which I've sat on the board for the last couple years. And so you can learn about all sorts of doctors in the area that treat children, or in your area if you're somewhere else, which I know a lot of our students are.
That's
So you can find out a lot of information about providers in that area. And there's also an American Association of Naturopathic Physicians as well, an AANP. So those are really great ways to learn about naturopathic medicine, and find people in your area to shadow or learn more about, or even connect with as a network of people who you can have referrals back and forth with. So that can be a really great resource.
Great, good. Well, thank you for that. And once again, thank you so much for taking time today. I'm sure our students will really like to hear and learn more about you, and our prospective students as well, to see the quality of instructors that we have here. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Of course. Thank you.